Going after Starship. Well, first it was going to take 7 rockets, now it's going to take 15. Then with Thunderfoot, Phil Mason had a go at it. He said that it's going to take 20.
Yeah.
So as soon as Destin put this video out, Thunderfoot responded to it, and he made it even worse, showing that, look, you guys are going to need 20 rockets to get there fully because it needs all that fuel. Then Bart brought up a good subject, saying that Von Braun said they need 3 of those ships full of fuel just to reach the moon. And where are they going to refuel it? How's it going to get refueled? Why do they need a gateway station? Why do they need all this refueling systems? Why do they need all this now? And they sent one single Saturn V with a payload in it, including the LEM and its fuel supply. Why and how did they get that to the moon? And not only that, but they got it back. No refueling's required. And yet, look at how small the fuel tanks were. Have you seen the one that they're going to be sending with Artemis? That lander? Those tanks are massive. I just showed them in the last video. And there's 8 of them. Yeah. So that's ridiculous amount of fuel that these guys are burning up. All for one extra man, because there's 3 persons in that new lander. Yeah. So they're going to need all this extra fuel for what, 180, 70 pounds? An extra 170 pounds? See, none of this is adding up. This is the type of thing that Destin and Thunderfoot were also going over. Yeah. And they were also talking about not only refueling, but how are they going to dock and then get those fuel valves locked on? We're not talking about going to the ISS and refueling some fuel tank on the ISS. That's already been launched and stabilized in Earth's orbit. Now we're going to be sending 2 separate vehicles. One's going up there and waiting to be refueled while the tanker comes up. Sending a few separate entities here. And then not only that, then also going on about Artemis. Well, that's right, that's the space program that's being run. So now we have Starship and we have Artemis 3. Which one's going to get there first? You tell me.
Yeah, if Starship gets there, I mean, this thing's what, 50, 60 foot high? And it's supposed to land so that it's got its feet on the ground. It's so tall. Now, if that thing hits a rock, it's going to fall over. And if it falls over, end of story, dead astronauts.
as soon as the lines have started. Celebrations landing lights are deployed.
Gotcha, I see it. Yeah, I got him. They're there. Oh my God, dude! You've got to be kidding me! What?
So how come that is such a good idea? Just because Musk says it is, doesn't mean that it is a good idea. You've got to have something which is spread it out. So you've got maybe a shortish ship, but wide legs, like the lunar lander.
That's the plan. There's another factor in that, Mark, so you just mentioned with the electric lander. Unlike the lunar module, they can't see and have a visual field. So this is not something else I'm talking about in the future, but it's not in my first 3 blocks. Something that occurred to me recently about another aspect of the Apollo landing is that, and again, narrative speak here, when they were sending 50,000 feet, they were actually using, again, according to the visual cues, to see where they were. Initially, the lunar lander was turned facing down, so the astronauts could see the lunar surface. So they were using visual cues to guide the ship. And then as it got closer, they turned around and back in different positions and stuff, and then the rest is history. But still, above and beyond this, they're still landing light. I mean, they're landing off in the one. They've never done this number 2. They've done it on ambitions, but they've never done it with ambitions. And back then, they had the technology to duplicate what we have here in aviation. They could have put in a very simplistic form of a landing system. We're going to plane, here, any plane, small plane, large plane, they called the landing system. So that falls on the plane, that falls on the ground, at the airport, and they both pretend to guide that plane again. And it's like half the light for landing. So that's like, you know, when you have to go a mile or something, 3 times. So they could have done the same thing with the Apollo missions. What they could have done was they could send up unmanned missions, several of them, to carry equipment to the designated area that the Apollo lunar lander was supposed to land. And then they could have used that simple landing system on the surface to guide the lunar module down. So you have equipment in the lunar module, put it on the surface, guiding it up, highlight, just like you see with airlines when landing aircraft, obviously, right? It just hit me that the absolute insanity of selling the narrative that we're going to land a manned mission on the moon without any equipment on the lunar surface to guide that lunar module to the surface. There's a problem with that because what happened is they had a contingency plan. I think there were 3 or 4 different landing sites that were designated in case they couldn't make it to that one spot. So let's say that happened. Okay, let's say they put Lauren or station, whatever they're talking about. Let's say they brought them up there first time from here. Well, what happens if they don't land there because the trying to take over the lander because it's going to land on the boat. So they had to move it. Well, I put them up there the first time. They don't use it. They're going to go blind for the second time. Now, I believe they knew on the new lander has cameras on the outside so they can watch the monitors to see where they're landing. They didn't have that the first time.
But then again, look at what happened with Artemis. Well, they had 24 cameras. Well, where are they?
Yeah.
We only saw video through 2 cameras during that entire mission. So what happened to the other 22 cameras?
The whole point is, yeah, they're going to these landing systems, they don't have cameras positioned on the outside. That's the thing. If your plane is back outside, to your point, they could duplicate that landing system through your back outside. So my point is that they didn't even build landing there, and they forgot that aspect. Now, you can take a chance to land an unmanned mission. With any certain damage by doing that. But to take a chance to do that with that mission, it goes against every safety rule you can think of. You could put a very, very frugal, sophisticated landing system on the moon. They have technology to do it. They didn't do that. They didn't work out the narrative, try to sell it. And that's really what maybe David and Mark is talking about this new lander. I mean, they're coming in. They can't see. They need some kind of landing system on the lunar surface to guide that shit down. That's the narrative they have to complete the narrative.
Space Odyssey 2001 nailed it right to the T. It was like a VOR system. Remember, it had the 2 needles that moved up and down, going for instrument rating. I mean, that's what you do. The old planes, the old Cessnas, right? You keep those needles crossed. Every dot was 2 degrees off. And the guys in Space Odyssey 2001 nailed that right on the button when they had it landing, when that ship was landing down, and you could see it drift and yeah.
Isn't that interesting? Because in the movie, that's great. Yeah, in the movie, they actually depicted that whole landing system.
Now, this was another thing that Bart brought up in that interview with Joe. There's a problem that Bart was saying because, and Scott had said this too before, that When cosmic radiation, or CMEs, whatever you want to call it, when it bombards the Van Allen belts, they get reactive and they deflect all of that radiation around. When cosmic radiation, or CMEs, whatever you want to call it, when it bombards the Van Allen belts, they get reactive and they deflect all of that radiation around to the backside of the Earth. So what Bart was saying was he was saying that now all the radiation that is encircling the Earth will eventually come up and around to the top and the bottom. So what Bart was saying was he was saying that now all the radiation that is encircling the Earth will eventually come up and around to the top and the bottom. And that's the most concentrated point. So if they claim that they're going through the poles, they're going through the most concentrated point of radiation.
What's happened?
It's just the northern lights. Aurora Borealis. High-energy protons spilling over into our atmosphere. They get through the magnetic shield where it's weak, at the poles.
Oh, it's still beautiful, I don't care what you call it. How often does this happen?
Oh, any old time. Although it's best when the sun's active. That gets the solar wind up, and that's where the protons come from.
You say the darndest things, Marina.
They're going through the most concentrated point of radiation if they are not dead center, like going through the center of a tornado. If you hit the walls of the tornado, you're gone. But if you were to go right up through the eye of it, it would be smooth sailing right up through the top. That's what they would have to do. So can you imagine having instrumentation trying to go right up through the center of all that magnetic radiation, or all that plasma radiation, whatever you want to call it? That's what they would have to do. So can you imagine having instrumentation trying to go right up through the center of all that magnetic radiation, or all that plasma radiation, whatever you want to call it? How are the sensors going to function when they tried to send up in the 50s and the sensors overloaded? In the very first rocket they sent up into the belts, the sensor overloaded. In the very first rocket they sent up into the belts, the sensor overloaded. In the very first rocket they sent up into the belts, the sensor overloaded. So imagine trying to navigate that going up through the center of a tornado that has a magnetic field swirling all around it, radiation. It's going to keep burning the sensors out. So how would you ever figure out how to go through it? If you touch the walls, you're dead. It's just the same like going up through a tornado. So, here's another point that they brought out. Explain that one, you NASA numpties.
Yep, come on guys, let's hear your excuse this time.